Republican Congressman from New York, Lee Zeldin. He's leading this charge, and he joins me right now. Congressman, good to see you.
Good to be with you.
So you know where I stand. I got a lot of questions, and I want a lot of answers, and I want to get as much information as I humanly possibly can. And I think the American public deserves this information as well. How close are you to getting it?
We've been able to get a lot of our questions answered. The 12-page resolution that we filed, and out of the gate we have 25 original co-sponsors. It's 12 pages of facts of misconduct that took place at the highest levels of the DOJ and FBI, and it was a product of Congress doing its oversight roles. So some of it is a result of document production from the Senate or House, Judiciary committees or Intel committees, Oversight and Government Reform Committee. Some of it has to do with a product of testimony. Former Director Comey coming before Congress testifying that he provided 4 out of 7 memorandum to get leaked to the New York Times because he wanted to trigger a special counsel probe.
I mean, that in and of itself, Congressman, I'm sorry, that doesn't sound like the kind of government that we can all trust. When the likes of the head of the FBI is out there leaking to his buddy up at Columbia so that he will then leak it to the New York Times so he can get a special counsel. It's kind of messed up.
And it's illegal. And 4 of the 7 memorandum that he had crafted were classified. So when he admits to sending 4 of the 7 memorandum to the New York Times, that means through simple math, at least one of that memorandum was classified. That's illegal. It's really important to note that the FBI and the DOJ, the ranks are filled with really great Americans who they take their oath seriously. They love our country. They're patriotic. They believe in our rule of law. And these are really important agencies. That's why transparency and accountability is needed. The problem is at the highest levels of the DOJ and FBI, you had people who were weaponizing what they were given, the power that they were given. They were used as tools when their personal biases, their own political beliefs, their opposition to Donald Trump started to overwhelm their objectivity. That's a huge problem.
Yeah, they didn't like him. They don't like him. And that's clear and evident. Perhaps they thought they were doing some kind of greater good, right? Saving the country from, by the way, the president that the people elected. That said, Mueller's team, let me ask you about them, because why haven't we seen Robert Mueller actually dig a little deeper on this stuff? Is it just simply not in his scope, even though a lot of other things seemingly are?
This is much more in his scope than a whole lot of other questions that they seem to be asking. The charges that they bring up have been a lot further than the scope that was defined than some of what is articulated right in this resolution that we just introduced. And by the way, and I mentioned 25, there are also committee chairs and member of leadership who have also expressed their interest in there being a second special counsel. Now, as far as the scope goes, anyone who is responsible for creating a cloud, intentionally, unintentionally, whether it's in writing or otherwise, if you put a cloud over this president, for example, you want to create a cloud that the president somehow colluded with the Russians to win his election, or you want to create a cloud that the president committed any crime whatsoever to win the election. Even if that is even put down on paper, you have a responsibility. If you have no evidence of it, and it's been this far, this long, come out with it. Remove the cloud that you created, because I could tell you as a member of Congress, at this far along in the game, I am not aware of a single piece of evidence that the president committed any crime to win election.
You know, there's kind of an interesting irony here. Don't forget it was Hillary Clinton who was accusing now President Trump while they were campaigning of not being willing to trust election results should she win. And yet you look at the left, you look at the Democrats, and they've just refused to accept this transition of power, which, Congressman, is quite sad. Because what does that say about us as a country? Is the very system we know breaking down when you can't have trust in an institution like the FBI?
While the president's hand was on the Bible getting sworn into office, and I'm here in the Capitol right now, the streets from here to the White House were lined up with people holding signs up at that point with his hand on the Bible, the president's hand on the Bible, saying impeach him now. That's how this presidency started. And while we were just talking about the clouds that are created where there is no evidence whatsoever to support some of these different clouds that were created, it's also important to note that we introduced this resolution 2 days ago. 48 hours ago. 12-page resolution with a whole lot of real misconduct and real facts. You know what's really interesting? Not a single person in America has poked any hole whatsoever in a single word that's in this resolution. And that's actual facts of real misconduct.
You know, I want to compliment you on something that you said yesterday there at that discussion you had with the president and other officials about immigration and MS-13 and how dangerous those gangs are for our society and what we can do about it. You said something very important, which is that we need to get beyond all this politics. We need to get beyond just sort of resistance, because as Americans, we need to be on the same page, don't we?
Yes. As I said yesterday, the president's success is our success as Americans.
That was a great quote.
We should want our president to be successful. And even if you didn't vote for him last time and you're not going to vote for him next time, look what's going on right now with North Korea or Israel and Hamas or Iran or rooting for our own economy. There are people who have pledged to oppose and obstruct this president on everything and anything. They say you can't work with him because if you work with him, you're legitimizing his presidency. They have gone so far lighting their hair on fire each and every day with whatever the talking points are that they're getting passed, that if they catch themselves for a moment and reflect, they'll realize that at times they have literally rooted for North Korea against the United States. They have rooted for Hamas against the United States. They celebrate when the market has a bad day and they want to say, I told you so. It would be great if they started rooting for a success more.
Yeah. Remember, we're all American first before we're Republican or Democrat or anything else. Congressman Zeldin, thank you very much. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Trish.